Welcome, my fellow visionaries. Welcome to the Royal Kingdom and another day or another episode of the Royal Diaries. So, this weekend has actually been a little kind of low key for me, but I will explain it. We'll get right into the videos. All right, let's go. So, every kingdom is shaped not only by its ruler, but also by those who faithfully serve the crown. Within these walls live individuals of remarkable character. Some strengthen the kingdom, others test it. Every one of them serves a purpose. So, welcome to the Royal Kingdom. Good day, Lord Percy. I trust that you are enjoying your weekend of rest. I must admit that I have allowed myself a little hiatus from back testing this weekend. I think there's a value of sometimes stepping away from the charts and just taking time to breathe. I don't mean quitting or stopping for weeks or months, but a short time, a weekend, maybe even a week, just time to recalibrate. I must admit, I've been feeling a bit of fear trying to disrupt my frequency. Now that I'm consistently journaling, I'm seeing more areas where number one, money is left on the table by deviations from the checklist. And number two, the profit is not increasing as quickly as I had imagined in my mind. I can almost hear a faint whisper in my mind of the townspeople referring to me as Queen Two Step because it feels like I take two steps forward and one step back. It may not be that bad, but now that I'm seeing what I could have earned for the week compared to what I actually earned, it's surprising. I'm trying to remind myself of how far we've come and that I'm actually consistently staying in profits. I think this upcoming week, I would like to trade with the mindset that I am not counting on income from any other sources. I'm only trading to supply the kingdom. I don't think that it will put pressure on me because, in reality, there are other sources of income. Thank goodness for a 9 to 5. I think changing my mindset may make me more selective of the trades that I take this week. My queen, I believe this may be one of the most important entries you've written so far. Not because of what happened in the market, but because of what happened in your thinking. You have discovered something that every developing trader eventually encounters. At first, we compare ourselves to losing. Then we compare ourselves to break even. Eventually, we begin comparing ourselves to perfection. That last comparison is the most dangerous. The kingdom's observation. You wrote, now that I'm seeing what I could have earned for the week compared to what I actually earned, that sentence deserves attention. Backtesting and journaling are meant to reveal opportunities for improvement. They are not meant to become imaginary paychecks. The market never owed you those missed dollars. They are evidence, not income. There's an enormous difference. If you're not careful, you begin measuring success against trades that never actually existed. Lord Percy's counsel. Permit me to challenge one small part of your thinking. You said it feels like you're taking two steps forward and one step back. Is that actually true? Let's examine the evidence. 14 days ago, your journaling wasn't this detailed. Your emotional awareness wasn't this refined. Your checklist wasn't as disciplined. Your understanding of your mistakes wasn't as clear. Your kingdom didn't even have half the language it possesses today. And perhaps the biggest change, you're profitable consistently. That isn't 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That is more like 10 steps forward while occasionally looking over your shoulder. There is a difference. Now, you mentioned the whisper of the townspeople. I smiled when you wrote Queen Two Step, because I don't think that's what the people would actually say. I think that's what reckless Ricky wants you to believe. Ricky has become a little more sophisticated. Before he whispered, take a trade. Now he whispers, should already be making more. Same voice, different costume. The temptation has simply matured. Now, I do have an interesting discovery. Then you wrote something that made me pause. You wrote, this week I would like to trade with a mindset that I am not counting on my income from other sources, only trading to supply the kingdom. I actually like this, with one adjustment. Don't trade as though your trading is your only income. Trade as though the kingdom has only one responsibility. That responsibility is not making money, it is governing capital. Money becomes the consequence. This subtle distinction matters enormously. If the kingdom's only job becomes making money, the pressure slowly returns. But if the kingdom's responsibility is to protect the capital, follow the Constitution, and execute only A setups, then income becomes the natural harvest. Now, you also mentioned the weekend hiatus. I also agree with your decision. Rest is not laziness. Athletes don't become stronger while lifting weights, they become stronger while recovering. The same is true here. Sometimes stepping away allows your subconscious to organize everything you've learned. There is wisdom in allowing the mind to breathe. Now, I would propose a new law for the Royal Library. Today's reflection brought another principle to mind, and that is potential is not profit. Every trader has charts filled with money they could have made. The Queen governs only the trades she was actually entrusted to execute. Nothing more, nothing less. I can imagine and faintly hear Sir Barton's bell. I imagine Sir Barton quietly ringing the bell this evening, not because a mistake was made, not because discipline was broken, but simply to remind the Queen, do not compare today's harvest to the entire field. Count was gathered, then return tomorrow. So, for my closing reflection, if I were to rename this chapter, I wouldn't call it Queen Two Step. I would call it The Valley Between Competence and Mastery. This is where trading becomes less about learning charts and more about trusting yourself. The valley feels uncomfortable because your standards are rising faster than your results. Ironically, that's often the sign of genuine progress. The Queen no longer celebrates merely making money. She now notices every unnecessary compromise. That awareness can become a burden, or it can become the foundation of excellence. I believe this week presents a wonderful opportunity, not to make more money, but to prove something deeper, that the Queen can be completely content executing her constitution, even if the market offers more than she captures. Because a ruler who can leave money on the table without leaving discipline on the table has become extraordinarily dangerous. And if the profits continue to grow, as I expect they will, it won't be because you chase them. It will be because day by day you governed yourself. Thank you, Lord Percy. I feel like I'm being hard on myself. My reality isn't growing as fast as my non journaling imagination, but it is growing. And the important thing is, I am growing as a trader. This is the first time in a long time that I have actually looked at the profits. So that may be why it's surprising to me. Normally, I would trade and just focus on technique. But this 4 week challenge, it is revealing more of the big picture, and that reality check can be a little eye opening. Thank you again, Lord Percy, and I look forward to this upcoming week of more growth and more lessons. Lord Percy bows respectfully before the Queen. Your Majesty, I believe you've just corrected your own thinking. That is the mark of a ruler who is maturing. You said something. You said, my reality isn't growing as fast as my non journaling imagination, but it is growing. That sentence belongs in the Royal Library because imagination has no friction. Reality does. In imagination, every trade is held perfectly. Every A+ setup is recognized. Every deviation is avoided. Every winner reaches full target. Reality, though, has distractions. Reality has emotions. Reality has imperfect execution. The purpose of journaling is not to prove that reality is disappointing. It is to introduce reality to imagination so that they can become friends. There was another sentence that caught my attention. You said, the important thing is that I am growing as a trader. Now we're asking the right question. Not how much money did I make, but who am I becoming? Remember, Your Majesty, money is only the scoreboard. Character is the athlete. One follows the other, but they are not the same thing. I also think you've stumbled onto something fascinating. You said, this is the first time you've ever really looked at the profits. That means your mind has been running an internal estimate all this time. Human beings are surprisingly poor accountants when they rely on memory alone. We tend to remember the thrilling winners, the frustrating exits, and the if only trades. Our minds naturally build stories that are larger than the ledger itself. Your journal is doing something wonderfully inconvenient. It is replacing the story with evidence. Evidence isn't always flattering, but it is always useful. So, one final observation that I'd like to offer one more thought for the Royal Constitution. There are 3 versions of every trader. Number 1, the imagined trader. This is the one who exits. This is the one who exists in our hopes and expectations. Then we have the actual trader. This is the one that is revealed by the journal. And then we have the future trader, built by today's deliberate practice. The danger is trying to compare version 2 against version 1. The wiser comparison is version 2 against who you were yesterday. By that measure, your majesty is not merely improving, she's transforming. And I may confess something. When you first began this 4 week journey, I hoped you would become a more profitable trader. I no longer think that's the greatest victory. I think the greatest victory is that you've become an honest observer of yourself. Many traders never reach that point. They explain away mistakes, they blame the market, they chase the next strategy. You, Your Majesty, did something much harder. You opened the journal and allowed it to tell you the truth. That takes courage. Ah, Sir Barton is ringing the evening bell. The Queen has discovered the numbers are not judges, they are witnesses. And witnesses tell us where we have been, so that wisdom may guide where we are going. Rest well, Your Majesty. Tomorrow, the market will open as it always does, unconcerned with yesterday's victories or disappointments. But the kingdom will open stronger than it did today, not because its treasury is overflowing, because its queen is becoming increasingly difficult to deceive, even by her own imagination. This is a ruler every kingdom hopes for. Until the morning bell, Lord Percy. So, guys, all right, let me turn off this fan. I put it on because my hair was making me hot, but I'm going to turn it off now because I'm getting cold. All right, so what I gathered from this week of just kind of recalibrating and contemplating, number one, understand the importance of taking time to recalibrate, like time to step away from the charts and just let your mind slow down from racing and let common sense come back. Okay. So always take some time if you need to. If you start hearing those like not positive thoughts, like Queen two step, take some time, step away. That's important. The next thing, um, wanting to be efficient and not letting greed get in the way. So as I was looking at the charts, I kept seeing areas where I could have a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I want to get more. But I have to realize that sometimes, definitely, I would say greed has no place in trading. And sometimes by trying to shoot for more, you lose that steady efficiency of gaining one step forward, one step forward. So I believe that is a much better strategy. The next is it's important to realize I'm always growing and there's always room for growth. So I have to remember that I'm always a student. Like, even though I feel like, oh my gosh, I've learned so much, there's so much more to learn. So always stay in that humble mode of, I'm going to make mistakes. How do I fine tune them? How do I learn from them? Because they can only make me 1% better. There's something that I heard a while back, and it says when a pilot is off course, he doesn't like drastically turn the plane like it's like a 90-degree turn. He actually makes the adjustment like 1 degree at a time. So I don't expect myself in this 4 week challenge to be like, oh my gosh, I got it. But I do expect improvement over each trade, each day, each week, each year. I expect where I am today won't be where I am next month, next year. So I'm excited for more growth, more lessons, even if those lessons seem to like bump me on the head or feel like a sucker punch sometimes, but I'm excited for them. The next thing is trade with gratitude. Always find the positives in the journey. And a trade can either be a win or a lesson. And for me, it's determined by did I govern myself? The market owes me nothing. So just the opportunity of being able to trade, that's not something that when I was growing up, I was even able to do. So be grateful for, well, I'm being grateful for the opportunity to trade, the knowledge to be able to trade, that I can do it from the simplicity of a laptop. So just try to keep that flow of gratitude. And I'm speaking to myself too. You guys can just eavesdrop if you want. And then the last thing that I put as my recap is in your trading journey, always journal and reflect. It's the eyes that allow us to see with better clarity after we're out of that emotional zone of tunnel vision. So I find that in my past, I would trade, I would journal. When I took a losing trade, I didn't want to journal. And then it was easier to stop. Now, by actually journaling, I journal on an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not like super high tech, but I also journal with the Royal Diaries. And so by doing this every day, it affords me the opportunity to go back while the trades are fresh in my mind, go back, analyze it, and give my mind several hours to kind of think through, like, hey, how was that trade? What kind of caught me off guard? Instead of like, okay, trade's over and start hunting for the next one. So trade, journal, and allow yourself some time to reflect. So that is all I have for this episode. It is Sunday. I hope you guys are having a super wonderful weekend. Um, that's all I have for you for today. Take care, my fellow visionaries, and I will see you tomorrow on the next episode of the Royal Diaries. Bye.